Okay, section 3.2. Parallel lines and transversals. So, kind of dealing with a lot of the same stuff as yesterday, except today the lines are parallel. So, we have at least 4 theorems. Yeah, 4 theorems. They all start out with the same verbiage. So I'm only going to write that once, and then I'll just change the outcome. So it all starts with if 2 parallel. Okay, so there's the abbreviation for parallel that I'm going to use from this point forward. Yes, it looks like an 11, but you wouldn't say if 2 11. So if 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, so all the theorems start with that phrase. So for this one, then corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, so theorem 3.2 is alternate interior. So the same thing, if 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are also congruent. Three point three alternate exterior angles, so same thing. 2 lines are cut by transversal, then alternate exterior angles congruent. And the last one, 3.4, consecutive interior. If 2 parallel lines are cut by transversal, then consecutive interior angles supplementary. Okay, so yesterday I referenced the ability to identify these angles are corresponding, these angles are alternate exterior, these angles are consecutive interior, and so on. So if you can't identify them, then you can't apply congruence, and supplementary. So kind of the first step in dealing with these problems that we're going to look at today is first identifying what kind of angles do I have, and then completing the problem from there. Okay, so and then remember that for lines to be parallel, they usually have these red kind of arrow triangle things indicating indicating they're parallel. So if you know one angle in this kind of parallel lines cut by a transversal, you can figure out all the rest of them using the theorems that we just talked about and a couple other theorems. It just depends on how you look at it. So this is just the way my mind sees stuff. It doesn't mean it has to be like the way that you see it. So I'm just going to write all the different angles here and then how we know what their angle measure is. So, and you don't have to go in order. First thing that I see is that angle 4 is 120 degrees because of vertical angles. It's a vertical angle with the 120. So it's going to be congruent. And then you could say that angle 5 is 120 degrees because of corresponding angles. So the 120 is on the top left-hand corner and the angle 5 is on the top left-hand corner. Okay, so if angle 5 is 120, then angle 8 is 120. And so you could say, well, it's vertical angles with angle 5, or you could say it's alternate exterior with the angle that is already marked 120 degrees. So just different ways to see stuff. All right, so then you're going to have, so notice 4 of the angles, the 120 that was already there, and then 3 other ones are also 120. You're going to have to do this at least once, what I'm going to do next. So angle 3 is 60 degrees because it's a linear pair with the 120 degrees. So that means it's supplementary, which means they have to add up to 180. So 120 and 60 makes 180. So that's angle 3. So you could say that angle 2 is 60 degrees because of vertical angles with angle 3. So if 2 is 60, then angle 6 is going to be 60 corresponding angles with angle 2. And then we could say angle 7, vertical angles with angle 6, or alternate interior with angle 2. I'm sure there's even other ways that you can do it. Okay, but notice there's 2 numbers in the problem. That will always happen. Regardless of the starting number, there will always be 2 numbers that make up all 8 of them. Okay? Alright, so let's look at a somewhat tricky one. Okay, so if we're going to solve for x, So we need to identify kind of the angles. Well, corresponding angles doesn't work because corresponding angles are actually on the same side of the transversal, or they're in the same location, is what I said to remember. So the 115 is on the top left-hand corner, and the x plus 5 is on the top right-hand corner. So it's not corresponding angles. It's not consecutive interior angles because x plus 5 is interior, but 115 is exterior. So it's not alternate interior for the same reason. It's not alternate exterior for the same reason. So right now, we don't have any of those angles that we just talked about. So what you'll need to do is, and there's a couple different ways you can do it, but I think so you could say, well, that's 115 degrees by vertical angles, and then you've created consecutive interior angles with the x plus 5 and the 115. So you could do that, or you could do linear pair and go sideways with the 115 or down, but 180 minus 115 is 65 degrees. And so you could make, like that one 65 degrees, or that one. Okay, so I kind of like the green one for this reason. That and that are now alternate interior angles, and alternate interior angles are congruent, so they're equal. And it just creates an easier problem to solve. If you did these two, the 115 and then with the x plus 5, you'd have to do x plus 5 plus 115 equals 180. And so when you solve it, you really did kind of do the same thing. You had to do, minus 115, which, well, that happened right there. And then do minus 5. Which happened up there. So it really is the same amount of work. It's the same amount of steps. It's the same numbers. So totally up to you which one you go with. You're going to do the same stuff. Okay? So some of your work today does deal with just numbers. So those should hopefully be the easier problems. And then some of them do work with variables, or the angle, like this one was just x plus 5. Okay, so they're all fairly straightforward. Nothing's too wild or crazy. Okay, but really work on your ability to identify the, these are corresponding, these are alternate interior, these are alternate exterior. So go back and watch the video from yesterday if you need more help with that. All right. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Talk to you later.